Welcome back to another week in the For Your Reference household. And we've got another unrequited problematic rom-com edition, OT. I also need to address hashtag fake Darcys. Apparently Tom Hanks thinks he's a Darcy, but you will come to see, as we will all come to see, that he is not, sir. Let's get on with the show. Colin Firth, 5 Ever. Friends and solitaire lovers, welcome back to the For Your Reference podcast. You got your host, Katie.
And Dottie.
Psst. Log out of the over 30s chat room by using 2 fingers on the backspace key and meet me knowing that I don't know that you are meeting me. Thank you for meeting us with You've Got Mail this week. We don't do rom-coms a lot, and I can foresee the rest of the episode is why, OT. Let's get into the general stats and information in regards to this film. It was released in December of 1998. It was based off of a 1937 Hungarian play, Perfumier. And there were also 2 other adaptations, but in regards to this film, directed by Nora Ephron, writers of Nora and Delia Ephron, we had a budget of $65 million. I know New York is expensive, but I don't know where that money went, OT. And a worldwide gross of $250.8 million.
Oh,
that's a lot of generic Starbucks orders, OT. Let's get into first impressions. I would suggest that you go and watch the only recognized BBC miniseries of Pride and Prejudice with the ever-eternal universal Katie Splooshes many times daily to Colin Firth altar.
For the second time, I'll plug this in. Pride and Prejudice Atlanta on Hulu.
Again, there is a certain spice. There is a certain seasoning you bring to the For Your Reference podcast, OT.
It wouldn't be your podcast if I didn't.
Are we welcome? I guess that is for you to decide, friends and lovers. Or you can go and check out Bridget Jones. I don't classify Happiest Season as, it's definitely problematic, but I don't recommend it as a rom-com. But let's talk about this film, OT. Even when I suggested it, you still had it confused with, I think, the Billy Crystal Meg Ryan film, even though we're all about the orgasms. So feel free to give a general sort of overview of if you've ever watched it. From what I understand, this was the first time you've watched it, right?
Yeah, this was the first time. I think somewhere between me growing up and this coming out, when people talked about You've Got Mail, in my head, I thought You Got Served. And I was like, yeah, You Got Served is amazing.
This for you, little saint.
Up until Katie kept on saying You've Got Mail, Tom Hanks, I'm like, Tom Hanks was You Got Served. Get out of here. But, I thought it was good. I got a bit, I got emotional at the end. And that, I think, was just part of me being spiteful to Katie because she hated it.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. Like, it's hard to find a movie that you can see through and just enjoy it for what it is. And I think this just played to its strengths.
You know what? I'm the one that introduced it into our household. And I watched it a lot, especially during our long distance years. If you are long-time listeners, thank you. Continue to sit on our Jupiter's cock. But for those that are new to our podcast, we have talked a little bit here and there. Most of the time it's relevant about our life story, and long distance was for a very long time a part of that. But I did watch that film while we were long distance, and I seemed to resonate on it in some ways, like the pen pal sort of aspect of it. There obviously wasn't any sexting back then, but there was, I think Birdie was the one saying that she was trying to have cyber sex. But there you go, friends and lovers. It didn't get as nasty as it gets in the For Your Reference household, indeed, for sure. But I do remember somewhat enjoying it. But that was not how I felt this time round. I feel like I've watched it a handful of times, so I wouldn't say this is my second time watching it. I think part of the problem is, when you have these rom-coms, they are pieces of fiction, right? I'm sorry to say, friends and lovers, if you thought Steamy McDreamy was going to slip into your bed at night, but unfortunately for us uggos out there, we don't have a chance, okay? But I think as you get older, or as I specifically myself, like as I've gotten older, like you start to realize that love isn't that, right? And love shouldn't be that, because God forbid any sort of rom-com is a true life story. Or perhaps it's the many long-suffering years that I've felt that my image of love I don't know. But this film, I felt like had a lot of problems. If you want to take it from a point of fiction, then I suppose there are some moments that you can find some sort of resonance, not necessarily reprieve. You can feel some sort of warm and fuzzies. But unfortunately, Tom Hanks also wasn't impervious to the creepy rubbing my straight man boner up against you.
What?
Well, maybe you're just seeing yourself on the screen. But there were many sort of like no thank you sort of instances in this film. So there we go, OT. I guess all of the love that you gave Pride and Prejudice, now you're transferring it here, and I'm not loving a film that apparently I used to enjoy. I don't know if I used to love it, but I used to enjoy it. So let's talk about some general sort of themes. This film is quite insular. Obviously, there are like some secondary characters, caricatures, I would say. But flesh out your secondary characters, you motherfuckers. And also, spoiler, otherwise, most splooshy, Kinnear. Can we talk about Greg Kinnear? There was no problem with him in Mind Garden.
Wow. So he was your Darcy on this.
You need to stop.
All right, that's the last one.
You're my Darcy in Pride and Prejudice Atlanta.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so there are a lot of themes that are introduced in this film, and I guess I just wanted to touch on a bit of it. Both of us, we talk about being in IT, and OT is a tech aficionado. I want to talk about the vessel of technology in regards to this film, because, the Y2K of it all, because it was slowly approaching the Y2K of it all. And I guess how technology was demonized, I guess the same way that people try and say social media is what made them cheat on their most beloveds.
Yeah, those traps are out there, mate.
Well, if you stop laying the traps, people won't fall for them, Moti. But there was talk of solitaire being the downfall of humanity, which apparently some governor in America actually tried to enforce that. Solitaire included with Minesweeper as well. And then we also had Greg Kinnear's character, a lone reed in the corrupt sands of commerce.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought I sounded like in our Parasite episode.
No, you just dicks. Ah. Poor dicks. Ah.
Well, I can handle it all. I will tell you that much, friends and lovers. But let's talk about technology and how it was utilized in this film. The intro was very nostalgic, obviously not at the time, but it's very nostalgic watching it now. Very Windows 95, 96. It was before we had experienced whatever the fuck was Windows Vista. The Comic Sans of Windows. I feel like that's only going to land for like 0.0001% of our listeners, but you're most welcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought it was, it was such a throwback, dialing up, the last time do you remember using dial-up internet?
Yeah.
I think those were just the times when I didn't comprehend how vast the internet was going to be. And wow, it just took me back. And I think seeing them or watching a situation where that was the thing and knowing how we had to communicate long distance as well, I was like kind of hooked. I was like, oh, mate, just replace dial-up with some shitty 3G. And And it's the same. It's the same. Man, I felt Kathleen and Joe's pain. More so Kathleen. I think she was putting herself out there. She was ready to meet Joe quite early. And oh man, I think we'll get into this sort of later in the episode, but wow.
Yeah. And shout out to T-Pain. We just watched the This Is Pop on Netflix, and T-Pain talks about when you're on the frontier of change, people just automatically reject it because it's something that they don't understand or they don't know. And I think that's how people were with technology, how it was a phase. And I feel like a lot of like traditional sort of media had a lot in the hand of poo-pooing, the digital age as well. So technology definitely plays a big part. And don't worry, friends and lovers, when it hits 5 p.m., I have muted my Teams. So no one can contact me till the next day. But it's interesting to see, I guess, in a time capsule, how technology was viewed in the late 90s. I want to talk about capitalism, as we always like to do. I tentatively penciled in gentrification, but Kathleen seemed like she was kind of rich. So I don't know if it works if the mega rich close the shop of a rich.
I think YG put it best. Big bank take little bank.
Ooh, the type of OT you gonna need to save.
Mm-hmm.
The type of money you gonna need a bank.
Yep.
See, friends and lovers, we can be a hip-hop music podcast if we wanted to. Go and listen to our Belly episode.
But I think, we knew what was going to happen. I think the most irritating thing to me was Kathleen's naivety at the start.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be this learned woman who's run this business for quite a while, but she saw no issue at all. Like, oh, there's a big mega bookstore that offers more than just fucking borrowing books.
Yeah.
They're offering an actual experience. It's not just a matter of, hey, let me check out a book and I'm out.
Well, according to her, they weren't offering the level of experience and I guess the learnedness that you're talking about. But it is interesting because I guess to everyone aside from her, even people in her store, her employees, they saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, the end was nigh for everyone apart from her. And then to sort of see, I think the journey of her realizing that, hey, shit's bad was quite something to behold, because up until she thought, I'd go toe to toe with Joe, put some media out, do some press and it'll make a change, but it didn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're giving out 35% discounts, no one's going to come to you, who's going to pay more for what?
Well, you're hemorrhaging a loss, right? Like you're operating at a loss, especially if you're new, whether you're big or whether you're small, you're going to be hemorrhaging at a loss because you want to get, clientele, you want to get people in there. It's to hopefully sustain it to a point where you can survive. And a small bookstore like that couldn't survive. And it's like you said, like it's one thing to have that sentiment because it was your mum's store and you grew up there and you have so much feels, and obviously, understandably, non-spoilery, go and watch Snowfall, especially season 4 of Snowfall, because my beloved little baby Franklin does something in that sort of regard. But at the same time, I feel like she was too smart to not know that was about to happen.
I think we assume she's smart.
Wow.
We made the assumption she's smart.
Would you say Joe's smart? Let's unpack that in After Hours, friends and lovers. But it's the capitalism of it all. And, I love whenever I try to eloquently condense hard social issues, I always reference South Park. And South Park has a great episode where when the community tried to burn it down, it just keeps building itself back up. And it's there. It's going to stay there. I guess the irony, if I can be John Hamm and Jack Donaghy in 30 Rock, the irony here is you've got bookstores, physical media that is struggling at the hands of digital, sort of like the Amazon of it all, because it started off as a bookstore, right? So it's kind of like a dog-eat-dog world, right? But I guess in this portion of time, big bookstore chains working.
Yeah, they're working. You might as well call Joe Fox Joe Bezos Fox, because there was nothing that was gonna do that Kathleen was gonna do to take his thing down.
And shout outs to the Dave Chappelle role in this film.
Yeah.
Apparently, he turned down a role in Forrest Gump because he thought that the film was going to flop. And obviously, he regretted it for the rest of his life. And Tom Hanks said, I will definitely work with you sometime in the future. And that's how this came about.
Oh, was he supposed to be Bubba?
Yeah. Imagine the trajectory. Imagine Bubba Gump in the club when Tupac's playing. But he brings some really interesting sentiment, into this film as well. And he's like, they're going to demonize us, but after a while, they're going to come in droves, right? And even later on in the film, he talks about how this is a well-oiled machine. He does shit all now.
It runs itself at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, the capitalism of it all is quite interesting. I do wonder because I've always viewed living in New York as expensive. And this is back when Brooklyn wasn't gentrified, so it must have been expensive, right? So I don't even understand how, I know she said she had a little money saved away, but me with my, migrant parents, a little money means a couple of coins for bread and milk tomorrow. Like she said she had a little money saved away and she didn't seem to be worried about the fact that she's about to sell her store. Aside from sentiment, I think financially she was fine.
Yeah, she seems fine, man. She owns property in New York. So she ain't worrying anytime soon.
So that's why I didn't call it gentrification, because she wasn't necessarily being pushed out of the stores because she was poor. But yeah, definitely a lot to take away in regards to the film. I do like that it had some textural layers in regards to beyond the sort of rom-com. That was kind of what kept me going in this film. Let's move on to the next theme. Slander, I would like to call it. There are references to, but then even the characters kind of try to fail to draw similarities between their characters and Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet.
No, I think it was quite stark, to me at least. I thought Kathleen and Joe were both Darcys to a certain extent.
Oh, they were both Darcy.
Well, Kathleen hadn't seen that. Oh, she was a suffering type, living just to be married off to some rich land. Nah, man. She had her own. She was with Frank, and I think part of these movies where they might try and paint Frank as some cheesy boyfriend who doesn't really deserve her or something. I'm glad they didn't go down that route or try and paint him as bad.
Yeah.
I think just showing that, I think that was one of the most amicable breakups I've ever seen in TV history.
But it made it so unrealistic.
I don't love you. I don't love you no more. It's all cool. Yeah.
All right.
Woohoo!
Craig Goatee David.
Who are you with now?
Yeah.
It was some unbelievable stuff right there.
Yeah, no, but that was very unbelievable. It was very unbelievable to me. But I would like to officially, as much as you can officially on a podcast, denounce any sort of correlations between Pride and Prejudice and this film.
Wait, so we have Kathleen being really mean, dickish, and...
Okay, so that was like one or two lines of dialogue and you're pinning her whole personality
I'm not pinning
on
her
that.
personality. I'm just drawing similarities with Darcy. You have your rich guy in Joe Fox who seemingly just is oblivious to everyone else's suffering.
You said a lot in Pride and Prejudice. I didn't realize you still had some leftover things
I have
to
issues
say.
that can't be absorbed by tissues, mate.
Yeah, but Darcy's not the one, bruv. Don't come for him, fam.
Cool, man. Cool.
But in any case, there's definitely no parallels. But I do love that. I'm sure that, like, as much as I feel like I'm a book person, I know I'm not, even though please don't kick me out of the fan club. I'll be outside with a table and some lemonade. I know there are people that don't like the adaptations of film and TV to be on the actual book, but I love seeing Colin Firth in this film. He was my favorite part of this film.
Wow.
Let's move on. I do not care for and I do not like Joe. I don't like him. He's the first instance of a catfish. He is the ground zero incel, and he's disgusting. He's fucking gross. Thoughts? Feelings?
I think he played his role quite perfectly, to be honest.
Yeah, to be the asshole dickhead. Like, he made Hugh Grant look like the most pleasant guy around.
Nah, come on now.
So I want to talk about the pen pal nature of it all. And then we can talk about how it trickles into the real life, because we haven't really talked about them as characters. But I want to talk about the vessel and the vehicle of being pen pals on AOL. Takes me back to my high school days when MSN was very new. And you would, there'll be giggle gaggle games that you would play pretending to appear offline, but you're really just waiting for someone to get online. So you can be like, lol, wrong convo, but while I'm here, come and sit on me, daddy.
Good on you, man. I think our internet was more restricted than that. It had small windows. We couldn't pretend we were offline.
No. Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, mate. Hey, Struggle Street right here. When you're down Struggle Street with Struggle Internet, you can't pretend. No, bruv.
Well, the concept of having pen pals wasn't new. Like, that existed even before, like, digital, like AOL Messenger. Did you ever have a pen pal in school?
Yeah, the church used to assign us pen pals.
Where was yours from?
America.
Oh, I thought this was going to be some Cloud Atlas shit where we had been writing letters to each other the whole time. Don't correct me on Cloud Atlas. Don't be that one specific dickhead that corrects people on Cloud Atlas mythology.
Actually.
In our French class in high school, we had pen pals from France.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was just our French teacher, but it's fine.
Yeah, we used to have rotating pen pals yearly, so it's quite weird.
Based on the high school I went to, I don't think they would have paid for the postage, so I'm pretty sure it was my French teacher.
Yeah, I don't think my dad sent them those letters anywhere.
Oh, man. But like in this film, I guess it is pivotal to, I guess, the heights and the emotions and the progressions, arguably, with some characters. But the character sort of development and the intertwining of storylines that we have, these emails become, foundational to the whole feel and the pull of the film. Mm. I did like the pacing of it in the sense that they were sending emails the whole time. And I think from Kathleen's point of view, it was very controlled. Like she felt like she was in control and she was going at a pace that she could handle. And then out of nowhere, they started instant messaging. Yeah. You're never going, like it hits different. Like you're never going to feel those feels ever again.
Oh, guaranteed, man.
While we're here, let's talk about a foundational qualm that I had while watching the film. And it had to do with the pen pal persona of Joe, as well as the dickhead persona in real life of Joe. Because this was a problem that I was having in this film. And you see it, you just want to poke the bear in the cage, right? And you just kept saying these nasty little things to me, which usually are splooshy. But in this case, it was just infuriating. Yeah. I don't like Joe as a character, as a label, or as a motherfucking establishment. He's a fucking problem. And if you identify people like this in your romantic life, you need to Hadouken them into landfill, friends and lovers. Go and listen to The Sum of Us, which in the linear timeline was our previous episode. But okay, there's a lot that I have to say in regards to Joe, but the reason why I don't like him is because he has this, I don't prescribe to toxic masculinity, but he has this little dick syndrome of always feeling like he needs to be the smartest person in the room, even if that means he's withholding key information that would just put the other person, i.e. Kathleen, on equal footing. He needed them to be on unequal footing so he could feel better about himself. All of this snarky. He was snarky Sorkin in email form. Go and listen to our Few Good Men because there's much better dialogue in that film.
Wow.
But he was a snarky Sorkin in his emails, right? Oh, Starbucks uses a way for people to be able to generically filter who they are as people through their coffee order. Fuck out of here.
Wow.
Yeah. The crescendo that I'm leading to, my love, is he knew he was the counterpart to Kathleen's pen pal ship, right? And first we thought that he was going to stand her up. And then he should have just done it, even though that would have been gross. He should have just done it because what he proceeded to do was so little dick energy. It was disgusting. He came in, he was like, oh, where's your friend? Why isn't your friend here? It's fucking gross. Why are you playing games with someone that you're apparently so attracted with and you just want to learn more about?
I think it was smart dick energy. I think he played it out quite well because he was trying to join these two personalities. Joe Fox, the obnoxious rich guy that Kathleen knows and hates, who just shut down her mother's bookstore.
Yeah. And
this NY152 guy, who they kept on interacting quite well. They understood each other. Oh, there was a semblance of there was a spark of romance in the air. So to join those two together, to make those two become one, he had to play it smart. You can't
Don't bring international treasure Spice Girls into this.
He needed to merge those personalities to make himself, Joe Fox, not be that dickhead. Because if he had gone there and be like, hey, I'm NY152, Kathleen would be like, fuck out of here, without a shadow of doubt.
Hey, friends and lovers, it's Katie from the For Your Reference podcast. Possible PSA, possible FYR curriculum. OT just sampled to you his pickup artist course. The first topic being classic manipulation. Do you not hear, sir, that what you were saying was woefully, toxically manipulative?
Game is game, mate.
Not only do you bring us spice, you make our podcast more accessible. Dickhead. No, but what I'm saying is when you lay all the cards out on the table, yeah, it's not fucking great, right? And there will be an immediate rejection from Kathleen. Cool. New York specifically has millions of people. So let's skip on our merry way. I know it makes a terrible screenplay, but that's the end of the film. Like, why? No, but it's like it's like the PG sanitized version of the Netflix show You. They just cut out all the scenes of Joe Fox wanking on a doorstep opposite Kathleen's bookstore.
Wow.
But it was genuinely manipulative. Yeah, all the facts doesn't sound great, but why does the destination have to be that they have to end up together? And that's part of the fucking problem with rom-coms, right? And we talked about this in Some of Us. What I loved about it is they had Greg and he wasn't a dickhead and then he stayed a dickhead at the end of the film, right? And that's usually what happens with generic, pedestrian, if I could steal a Kenya Barris Black AF word, rom-com. And that's the problem. If you watch it as fiction, then good for you. I think a lot of us keep Katherine Heigl in fiction. Then that's fine, right? But, maybe it's not fiction because I'm starting to realize that people are very messy. And I'm starting to realize that after the whole Malcolm and Marie discourse. Like, I used to think
that's another Sunday night at someone's place.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But I guess that's part of the quandary that I'm navigating. At first, I thought this was far out fiction, and then I'm realizing there are a lot of messy people out there. Technology is just making it more available for us to be messy everywhere on everybody.
But I think he just needed to try and peel that veneer off so that Kathleen can see him for who he is. And that's part Joe Fox and part NY152.
The only thing going for Joe is that he had a dog.
And mate, Kathleen herself, if you wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, she was like
you never called Tom Hanks a horse.
If you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, at the very end she said, I wished it was you.
Vomit.
I wished you were one NY152.
And that's where you got emotional?
Yeah.
Dickhead.
I was like, that is game. Come on now.
Take it. You can have it. Leave me alone. Take it, but leave me alone. Please spare me. Absolutely spare me. I do not need that. That was disgusting. Okay, let's talk about Kathleen, because I have positive things to say about Kathleen. I want to go back to Joe in a second, but let's talk about some positives. The emotional pull in this film was successfully executed via Kathleen and the memories of her mum and what continued her in trying to build and continue to sustain the bookstore. Mm-hmm. There were some moments where I really felt some deep pockets of resonance when she was talking about her mum and trying to fight for the bookstore, albeit naive, which we've talked about, but that's where you get the emotion in this film. I loved seeing Kathleen just as a character. I love seeing her navigate the world. And I guess the compliment would be she's not Elizabeth Bennet, because Elizabeth Bennet, we talked about her. She's like Lisa in Coming to America. She's that strong, independent woman until you wave Pemberley in her Pussy Valley. And then she's...
Oh, I can fall for Darcy now. Look at that estate. What the fuck?
And I guess in way of like double ticks for writing, Kathleen didn't come off as that, but it might just be because she had some riches herself. So it wasn't necessarily a rags to, hold on to the money bags of riches.
Yeah, it was like flying first class to getting your own private jet.
Okay.
Like their levels. So to me, Kathleen was, I think if it wasn't Meg Ryan playing Kathleen, I would have been right up hating her character.
Casting is very important, yes.
I think Meg Ryan played such a big part in me believing and wanting happiness and future successes for Kathleen.
Like a little baby bird. Like you just want to hold her and make sure she's okay.
Yup. Anything less and I'll be like, mate, get in the bin.
Because let's be real about this. Everything about her in this film was genuine. There was a big percentage that was naive, but she was genuine the whole time. And that's part of my problem with Joe's character, was it was all smoke and mirrors and it was all manipulation.
Well, Kathleen, I think what we got to see, at least in terms of her character development, is her breaking free of feeling as if she needed to be boxed in, feeling that she couldn't really express herself or say what she really wanted. I think that was really good to see, from her realizing that, this is a dead rubber relationship with Frank, and I'm just going to tell him. And it was just lucky that that Frank was feeling the same way.
Hi, friends and lovers. It's Katie again from the For Your Reference podcast with another PSA. Stop saying you're a good person and omitting the shitty things you say. That was part of a problem I had with Kathleen. She's like, oh, I'm such a good person. I wouldn't usually say this, but you fucking said it and just own it.
Yeah.
Just like us, when eventually people take out of context sound bites, just fucking take accountability.
True. I think she needed to own it more. It's not, anime laugh at the corner. I didn't do that. No, man.
OT, we need to put subtitles on your giggles.
Like, just own it. You said some really crappy, hurtful things to Joe, which I was like, you know what? Kathleen is a shit person just because of what she said. Sticks and bones, man.
It's sticks and stones, mate. I don't know how you idiom in Kenya.
I think I used the correct bones.
That's a high level of intensity right there. Let's focus on the coupling of it all. Apparently, this is one of the only sort of iterations of the adaptation of the play where the protagonists weren't in a relationship. So all of them were single, but in this film, they wanted to be extra messy. So they were in respective relationships. I want to talk about Kathleen and I want to talk about Frank. You've kind of touched on it already. I don't think there was anything wrong with Frank as a character.
No, he was all right.
So I guess that's good we don't have like biased writing, especially because when they're trying to prime the audience, it's to demonize the character so we feel better about the potential infidelity.
Yeah,
right?
I think my problem more so was with Joe's better half. Because they tried to make her really bitchy and
Patricia.
really like, mate, she's the carbon copy of Joe.
Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it, OT? you be anymore?
They try to make it as if, oh, what the hell is Joe with this lady? But nah, man, she's exactly the same as you. She's just speaking. She's just saying it.
And can we talk about it? Because it is so exhausting to have to, and in some cases happily, interact with other people only to find out that they are and they were shit all along. Like, just don't try and pretend that you aren't, right? And that was the problem with Joe, because he thought he was a good person, and that's part of the problem. Just like Lawrence from Insecure.
Hey.
You present yourself as a nice guy, but you're actually a fuckboy.
Hey, Issa made him a fuckboy, mate.
Hey, we are not getting into this. Not in the holy year of Issa Rae. How dare you, sir?
We'll have a battle. We'll have a battle at the end of Insecure.
We have 2 episodes of Insecure covering all 4 seasons, friends and lovers. So make sure you go and check that out as well. Jay Ellis is also an escape room. That's all. But that's the problem that we have, because Joe wanted to convince people that he was a good person. I don't know, man. Like, if you're shit, just be a shit person. Put that next to your live, laugh, love in your kitchen, friends and lovers. Because there was nothing wrong with Patricia. You know, she was just as venomous, but she didn't make any allusion to the fact that she was anything otherwise.
Yeah, she didn't pretend, man.
Yeah. So what's so good about Joe then?
He had hopes to be better. I think that's the difference.
Sounds like a fuckboy thing to say.
I think Joe realized, you know what? I want to be better. I want to be better for Kathleen.
Be better for yourself. That's another PSA. Be better for yourself, friends and lovers.
Mate, we're talking about a rom-com. Self-love isn't part of this, man.
Don't because rom-com me. Don't because Christmas me.
It's the whole reason. They don't need ex machina. It's just in the genre. Rom-com. That's why.
If you say so. Going back to Frank, I liked him as a character. It was reminiscent of Carcetti from The Wire when he was watching his own interviews, or in any instance when even Birdie was reading something he wrote and he was mouthing the words. Like, why didn't you say it yourself then? You just got to do that. I really liked him. I enjoyed him as a character. Yeah, he was a bit indulgent, but Kathleen didn't seem to have a problem with that up until she didn't have a problem, which is absolutely fine in relationships, right? But there was nothing wrong with Frank specifically.
Nah, he was all right.
He was fun. Him buying a typewriter while he had another typewriter and apparently they were different reminds me of OT and the PS4 fiasco in our household many years ago.
Wow, they were different.
Well, so you maintain to this day, Joe O.T. Fox. There was a rhetorical question that was posed in the film that I want to bring into this podcast. Is it infidelity if you're talking to someone through email?
If you're yearning for a physical, intimate relationship with them, I think it is.
If you hear Jodeci playing, you know something nasty is about to go down. But I thought that was quite interesting because it was very early in digital sort of exchanges.
Yep.
I liked how Joe Fox's character was probably the genesis of hashtag film Twitter and him being a film bro and quoting Godfather all throughout the film.
The answers to life's problems. Watch the Godfather trilogy. Maybe just 1 and 2. But
1 and 2 for the Corleone nasty. But I wonder what that's like in real life when you quote films and TV like we do. I hope we don't come off as Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I have something that I know hot takes has its negative sort of terms, but I do have something potentially fuego. And I guess before I say it, is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up this episode, OT?
No, I'm good.
I don't get Tom Hanks as a lead in a rom-com. Because I know, especially with Pamela's Paninis, they had Tom Hanks reign in SNL. And I know he is referred to as being the father of America, but that also means Chet Hanks, the white boy summer of it all, is the son of America, which kind of fits. I don't think he fits in Daddywood. I think he's just in Fatherwood by himself. I just don't see him as a lead guy. As much as I don't necessarily fall for the charms of Hugh Grant, even though I've mentioned him more than once in this episode. I get it. Like, I get it. I don't get it. But I also don't understand how Billy Crystal would be a lead in a rom-com either.
Wow.
Well, let's be real about it. There's like there was an ongoing Family Guy cutaway where muscle men's in the 80s and the 90s just had their pants up really high and they're wearing singlets. They call them wife beaters in America. I don't know. I just don't get it. And his voice isn't very it isn't lubricating for my splooshes.
Wow.
He just sounded like a father telling me to go to bed. And I'm like, okay then. We'll unpack that in for your reference after hours.
Wow.
And I also want to say that OT co-signs everything I say. Just like Dido, I will go down with this ship, just like OT.
Not jumping out of that ship.
Ooh, that got more heated than I was anticipating. How about you, OT?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's finish off in a segment we call For Your Reference. OT.
I wouldn't want to miss the beat, so I'll recommend Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan's Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, not Joe versus the volcano?
I'll leave that for you.
I heard there are Polynesians that have Fanta cans as their clothes.
Wow.
I'm not sure if I'm ready for that journey. I'm still healing from Moana. And I will reference, surprise to absolutely nobody, the BBC miniseries Pride and Prejudice.
Atlanta. Whoa, nice. I've finally convinced you. All good, all good.
If you would like to experience #FakeOT on Twitter and Instagram, we're at For Your Ref Pod.
Write us an email at hello@fypodcast.com.
We're also on Joe OT Fox Podcast if you'd like to leave a rating and review. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.